Welcome everybody to our Zoom at noon on Friday, where we interview dynamic individuals who are just wonderful people in their own right, but also have incredibly valuable information to share. I'm Dr. Dale Caldwell. I'm the executive director of the Rothman Institute of Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and we always have some new people who don't know about this. And so the Rothman Institute is focused on really supporting, promoting, and researching entrepreneurship around veterans, family businesses, students, urban entrepreneurship. We really are advocates and almost evangelical about the importance of entrepreneurship to society. And so we've had an opportunity. We've been doing this, Sue, for almost 2 years now, talking to some amazing people. We have yet another amazing person today, Connie Whitman, who I've gotten to know and really gotten to admire. She is an expert in things that I am not great at, the sales aspect of the world. And so I've learned a lot from her already in our show. So Connie, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Dale. Excited to be here. And, as always, I hope I share some quality content for your peeps.
You absolutely will. And so we encourage people to send some questions in the chat or through the Q&A button. So first, Connie, as I always do, I want to start out, where did you grow up? And are you a Jersey person, or what's the story?
Jersey born and bred. So I'm a Jersey
Nice.
Girl, and I don't pump gas. I think there was a bumper sticker out there. So yes, Dale, I grew up in Newark, New Jersey, during the 60s into the 70s. And then during the riots, which got pretty bad in Newark, my dad realized there was 3 girls and my brother. So there were 4 of us. I got to get these kids out of here. Education we were in the public school, actually we're in the Catholic school system. But the education just wasn't what my dad, as an immigrant, right, wanted us to have a better opportunity. So we moved to Homedale, New Jersey. Talk about the dispariting background, right? So we leave the city into Homedale, which is all farms, back in the 70s. So that was an impactful experience for me as a child, which is interesting as well.
Yeah. And again, as I said, this book behind you, it's about influences. And so those influences impact and shape how we think and what we do. So, all right. So from there, you went to, now where'd you go to the college, and what were some of your first jobs? You have a great work history.
I do. So yeah. So I went to Rutgers, Jersey Girl, for my undergraduate. And then after graduating, I worked for a few years and then went back to school at night for my MBA at Monmouth University, also in New Jersey. Yep.
Yeah.
And that I did that for, obviously, right after graduating, I got a job at a credit company. And that is where I learned that I was good in sales. I always say that the job found me. I didn't know this was a natural skill that I had. So I don't know if you want me to go into detail of that, but that's
talk about that experience, because that really helped to and talk about the experience. And we're very open about the challenge of being a woman in that industry.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience. Never being told you can't do that, right? Because you're a female. And so I worked for a credit company, and at the time, leasing wasn't a thing like it is now. Back then, though, we're talking in the 80s, leasing was really good for business owners. They could write the entire payment off versus keeping track of mileage and all of that. So I started to get these deals in that were retail deals, but they were business owners. So I would call up the dealer, the salesman, and I'd say, listen, you're really doing a disservice. You can help the client more, blah, 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 blah. And they were like, we don't know how to do that calculation. So I'm a finance major, right? So I'm like, let me teach you. So I taught them the calculations. And this is the coolest thing, right? That happens when you come from a place of education. So I educated all of these salesmen. They started making more sales. So yay for them. The dealer was happy because they were making more sales. Yay for them. This was the coolest piece. The business owners were so appreciative because no one had told them this, right? They didn't know. We don't know as business owners, right? We don't know what we don't know. So now they get to write this whole payment off. Well, what do you think they did? They talked to their friends and started bringing them to see Dale at the dealership. Hey, he did good by me. I think you should talk to him, blah, blah, blah. So everybody started winning and making money or saving money on the business side. So a sales position came open at this credit company, and all the dealers, all these men are calling me saying, you should apply. And Dale, I said, why would I apply? I don't know anything about sales. And then, what do you think you've been teaching us? So I went, this is the part of the story. I went into my boss and I said, they're telling me I'm really good at sales. This is what I've done. I gave him some of the quantifiable numbers, right, to show him, I think I'm pretty good at this.
Right.
And his response was, you're a female, I can't promote you. The industry won't, the company, but the industry as a whole, the car dealership industry won't allow it. But and Dale, and I know I've shared this with you before, and I still look back again, we talk about the influencers in our life. He saw something in me that I didn't, because his next response was, you need to get out of here, kiddo, and find a job, because you work hard, you're smart, you're going for your MBA, all of these things. You deserve better and more, and it's not going to happen in this company. And so he allowed me to interview and stuff like that. And I'm always appreciative of that, because that wasn't his decision to not, it wasn't his personal bias or whatever, not to promote me because I was a female. The reverse of that, he saw the terribleness of that, right? Yeah, that this should not happen, and said, but here's the deal. You need to go and find your path and shine your light and all of those things. So I'm forever grateful to him.
And that's an important part, Connie, because so many of us have those angels, if you will, in our life, that we have some devils that drag us down and hold us down. But we also have some people who kind of, at their own, because he would lose money with you going, because you're so good at it, but he put you ahead of that. And that's something we talk about, this coach leadership. Yes. It's now a time you have to put the people ahead of yourself. And that's the good leadership. And you'll always remember that person. And
absolutely.
That's really important. All right. So now where'd you go after that? What happened next?
So then, like anybody else, I left, got a job. And it's so funny. This is such a 20s something thing to say. So I went out to dinner with friends, and I'm appalled, like I'm a female and they won't promote me. And, I was complaining. And so we went out to dinner, a bunch of us, and one of the men that we were going for MBA at night, we were having dinner, and he looked at me and he goes, you have a good personality, you're smart, why don't you go get your insurance and investment licenses? You have a finance degree, you're going for your MBA in finance, I think it's a good fit. My reaction, I do have a good personality and I'm good in finance. I think I'm going to go and do that. And that was the extent of the thought process for that. Right. So I went, and while going to school at night, I got my licenses. I did leave the company, went and got my insurance licenses, my Series 7 licenses, all of those things. I like education. Can you tell? I like learning. Yeah, and then I did investments in insurance for a few years, translated into banking. That's why I know Bryce at Provident. Provident was one of my clients. And I just got into banking in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And I became a regional sales manager, and I loved it. I loved teaching people how to sell. Again, the jobs kind of found me, Dale. Did the opportunity present itself because I was open to it, right? There's a whole science behind that. But yeah, so I got into banking and I never looked back. I found my family, if you will.
Yeah. Well, banking now, normally people say, well, banking and sales, those are the total opposite things. What does banking have to do with the sales? So how do you make that transition?
So it was really cool, because I remember when I got hired, I was in a meeting with the CEO and the president. And when I became a regional sales manager, and they're talking about strategic plan and the company. And I'm sitting there thinking, my people don't know how to do that. Right. So I had about, probably close to 100 branches. Right. So I had a lot of employees, and I'm thinking to myself, they don't know how to do what they're asking them to do. So I, of course, raised my hand. I'm not afraid to be verbal. And I'm like, our people don't really know how to do this. And the CEO looked at me and he said, and that's why we have you go and teach them and figure it out. I was like, okay, dude, like I hear the message loud and clear. And I'm competitive, Dale, also. So we had 5 regions back then, and I had to be number 1 because I'm competitive. And so I went back and I started coaching my managers on coaching their employees, right? And developing skills, because I believe if we can change behaviors and change skills and create good habits, the numbers come, right? That translates over to the numbers. So I manage a person, not a number. And so I started doing that, of course, was the number 1 region. And I did that for many years, and then had kids, and I was working way too many hours. And that, from a life values, personal values standpoint, I wanted to be home with my kids. So I was approached, because now, you're at a senior vice president level, right? You have all of these connections at that executive level. I had the ear of people, and the head of the trust department approached me and asked me if I would do a reduced work week and job share, which back in the 90s, Dale, was unheard of. So I went from sales management back into sales. And this is the funniest thing. I made more money working 3 days a week than I did full time as a regional sales manager because I'm good at sales, right? So I made more money working less.
Interesting. And so, how did you get your own business? How did you make that transition to
Yeah.
where you are now?
Yeah, it's fascinating. Again, the whole process of life as you look back and you see the connectivity of what choices you make and how you end up where you end up.
It's never a straight line, but when you look back, you see how everything's connected.
That's right. That's right.
It's really an interesting thing.
It really is. And so 20 years ago, banks, it's happening again, but banks back 20 years ago are going through what I call merger mania. Every time I turned around, there was a merge. And so, thankfully, I always retained my position. But the bank that bought us, I won't say who they were, but I did not want to work for them. So I remember coming home, I had 2 babies, Dale, and I said to my husband, I can't work for this company. They're anti-customer service, and I'm all about serving the client. So not a good fit. Again, values. See how interesting that kept creeping in for me. I don't know that I realized it was a value thing for me, but I said to my husband, I can't work for them, and he said to me, well, what do you want to do? I'm like, I want to open my own business. And we needed my income. And Dale, you know this, we just had our 30th wedding anniversary. Yes, so my husband, he clearly gets me, right? And so, that was 20 years ago. I started my own business, never looked back. And that's what I do now. I go into companies and even small business owners, and I help them understand what is the culture and then what do we want our people to do? And it's always about the client journey, right? What is the experience we want our clients to do? And then we can back into the behaviors that we potentially need to learn to get the numbers that we need to grow revenue and profitability and all those things.
So, because I really want to get into some depth. Yeah. Around since we have a little more time than we did on my show, and so starting that business, what did you learn? And what do you know? Because we have some new business folks who are listening in and will be watching the videos. As you started this and you hadn't started your business before, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you first started?
To give up control a little bit easier and sooner. Number one. Number two. I'm a lifelong learner, which obviously my credentials, you see that. So that to me is important too. And with COVID, because now we had this digital realm and I had done everything live. So the education for me, for my own abilities, right, to be able to continue to work through COVID, right, and doing digital, my learning curve went up. So I did a lot of education, which I highly recommend for new business owners. You have to start to identify blind spots and then go back and get whatever that education is. And it could be an online class, right? It doesn't have to be anything so grandiose. So that's the other thing. And the third thing I would say is ask for help. I felt like I had to be super mom and super business owner and super this and super wife and super, daughter. And it's ridiculous because they're all false expectations of being able to do everything. So I should have asked for help sooner. I wouldn't have been so overwhelmed and close to burnout.
Yep. And you keep saying it, but people take it for granted, this idea of being a lifelong learner. See, I've learned too, that the people who are successful, they come to these kinds of things when they have an opportunity to learn from someone who's different, to avoid certain mistakes that other people made. That is so important. The days are gone when you just rely on your own smarts and you just do it yourself and you don't consult with anybody. So I really appreciate that about you. And I think that's important. And that's informed your practice going forward. So, all right. So you started the business. Did you start the way you're working now, or has your business adjusted? So what did you start out doing?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I had it, you have to evaluate. So I started a business. Woohoo! I started a business. Wow. And then I remember thinking, well, what am I going to teach? Getting the clients weren't the issue for me because I had such a big network, right? Because I had been in sales. So I had a huge network of people to reach out to. But then what do you offer them, right? So I really sat down one day. I remember thinking, well, write out what you do. Like, why are you good at sales? And so I started thinking about the stories and I started thinking about, well, what did I teach those dealers? And what did I teach my clients when I was selling investments? I always came from this place of educating whoever I was speaking with. And so I started to frame that out and I came up with my 7-step, it's my own signature program, but those 7 steps. So I had one product, and that's what I went to my clients with. And of course, what ended up happening, because I over deliver, right? I get results. The return on the investment is evident at the end of the training. And so what would happen, and they'd be like, you're really good with time management. Can you teach that? And you're really good at service for our non-client centric people. Can you help with that? And so I started creating programs based on need. And that's another tip for business owners. Wait till the need is there, then create the program. Don't create the program and then look for the problem, right? So the problems found me because my clients trusted me, and I just started creating extra curriculum. So now I probably have about 20 programs already created.
So you're saying, listen to the customer. Sounds so
Yes.
basic, but so many folks, and I even see people, new entrepreneurs, I've got the best product in a new water bottle. I love it. Everybody's going to love it the way and then they don't sell anything because they didn't understand their customer base. And so that's an important thing you said. The other thing was really important is that it's about teaching. I think a lot of people that aren't good at sales go into it and think it's about selling, but it's really about teaching. So, and I want to get to, if you're willing to share your 7 principles, I'd love to walk through that with this group. And I hope people have a pen and paper, because it's gold.
Yeah. And before I get to that, I think we have time. So before we get to it, I want to just kind of frame this out a little bit, set the container, and then I certainly can go through my 7 steps. It's pretty easy. But here's the thing. Foundationally, there's 2 conversations going on all the time. So it's the conscious. Think of an iceberg, right? So you have that little view above the water is 10%. Right. So 10% of our conversations are very conscious. You and I, what we're doing, we see each other. I'm speaking English. You can see my body language. I'm very, my energy comes through, right? Because I'm very body language oriented. All of those things is very conscious. Okay. Then think of the iceberg below the water. So 90% of our conversations are unconscious or subconscious, where we don't really know what's going on. So for example, when we're talking to our clients, they are emotionally driven by their experiences, right? We're emotionally driven and communicate from our experiences. Right. Well, are they a match? No, of course not. So how do we decode, if you will, that unconscious conversation? And that's one of the things I do teach through my 7 steps. I have tools that people can utilize to get control and be aware of that unconscious conversation. Because think about it, if I'm only present or aware of me communicating with other humans, and it's really 10% cognitive, if you will, right, and the rest is happening at this like kind of an undercurrent. If I don't understand it, I don't control it, you're losing business. You're either leaving money on the table or you're not making sales that you should be making. It's really important foundational concept.
So this concept, is it just good for people selling cars or selling? No, it's really good for everybody in every present. We are all salespeople, right? We're all salespeople, no matter what we do.
And here's the other thing, Dell, if you really think about it, we communicate with humans all day long, both personally and professionally. So when you start to understand, like my kids, there's a lot of unconscious or subconscious conversations happening. You have to be mindful of what their emotional state is or where they're coming from. So, and if you don't tap into that, as a mom, I don't tap into that. I'm yelling at them. Just go and do it. Like, don't argue with me, right? But there's something going on that triggered them, and that's that unconscious current. So the better we get control of it, it creates harmony in all your communication, not just from the sales perspective. It's really kind of magical.
And so you're a great listener as well. And so one of the things in coaching, we talk about the 4 levels of listening. You know, they have the self-focused listening where the people aren't listening. They just can't wait to talk. And then you have empathetic listening and contextual listening. And it's important to really understand and really, really hear what the person is saying. So I think you've honed those skills over the years.
Absolutely. 100%. Yes. The other thing I've realized, especially specifically foundationally for salespeople, there's 2 camps typically people fall within. So it's interesting. 2 years ago with COVID, I was networking a lot, right? To learn for myself what's out there. Who do I need? Who do I need to hire? What do I need to know? What are my blind spots? So I was networking like a crazy person. My husband would bring me food. I mean, literally, I was working 12-hour days just to learn and make sure that I wasn't missing anything, because time is money, right? So all of this networking, I started meeting small business owners, and they would say to me, can you help me with sales? And I was like, yeah, but aren't you good at sales? Like, you're a bit, see, my own assumptions, if you will, with that population, because I had always dealt with corporate clients. So now all of a sudden this population was saying, wait a minute, I need help with. And then this is when I realized that there's two camps. The first camp is you don't even have enough of conversations or prospects or leads coming in. So if people come to me and say, yeah, I want to sell better, I want to communicate better, and we start focusing on their personal skills, but they have no new prospects coming in, nothing to nothing is nothing.
Right.
So we have to address, why aren't you getting the leads? What's going on over here before I transition to the second camp, which is, no, I'm getting the leads. I have 100 leads a month, but I'm selling 2. That's a problem. So my feeling is, if we are in front of our ideal client, we have honed our skills, the timing is right, it's a perfect fit for the client, whatever you're offering. We're not just vomiting and pushing a product on them, but it's truly a good match. Our close ratio should be close to 80%.
Really? Wow. So talk to me about, okay, so if your pipeline, what you're saying is, if your pipeline is not filled, and so, what do you do with folks like that come to you and say, okay, I want to learn this skill, and you say, well, your pipeline's not filled. So how do you help them?
So I do a sales audit and again, I learned to do this for business owners. I certainly can use it for corporate clients too, right? It's a good tool, but by them dissecting what activity they have, what their close ratios are, all of those things, we can determine which side of the coin they're on. But for people who aren't getting the leads, we have to look at, well, where are you networking? Are you networking in the right place? What are you saying? Is your messaging and what you're delivering a good match, right? I'm not a marketing person, Dale, that marketing and sales, 2 very different things, but I can easily say, that's why you're not attracting the client. You're saying this, but this is really what you want to offer. The other thing I look at is their own mindset, because your own mindset really does, it derails you, and we don't even realize it. So me coming in, looking from the outside, again, I've been doing this for 40 years. I clearly see where the disconnects are with their clients, with their prospecting, with their marketing, with their efforts in general. So usually on that side of the coin, it's a priorities issue. They're chasing the silver objects, the shiny objects. They're not necessarily focusing on the business. So there's a lot going on, but once you determine where the glitch is happening, it's an easy remedy, right? It's like anything else. Most people don't know how to evaluate, let alone what side of the coin I'm on. But okay, I know I'm over here. What do I do about it, right? I'm the how-to girl. I believe in sharing information, which is a beautiful thing. But if you don't take the ideas and apply them, you're never going to get the results on the back end, right? And that's really where the magic happens. Not by learning is wonderful. I'm a lifelong learner, but we have to apply and try things out to create change in our life, whatever that means for everybody.
No, well said. And again, that's a great point for everybody to begin to think about as to where they are and what's going on. All right. So you've done that part, say they have a nice pipeline, but I still can't close. Connie, I can't close. What do you do with me?
So that's where my 7 steps comes in, Dale. And once you understand the 7 steps, people understand, hey, I'm good at number 1 and number 2, not so good at number 3. So there you go. That's where you need to start to focus your energy and grow skill, because you have a little bit of a deficit there. And here's the other thing. What I find is, I would say 80% of the time, the people I work with, they're doing things really, really well and really, really right. But it's that 20% that shoots you in the foot every time. And I remember someone said to me, can you imagine if you get on a plane and they come over and they say, listen, we're 99% sure that we're not going to have any issues. I'm getting off that plane, because that 1%, oh, no, right? It's the same thing with us. We're like, we're 99% there. That 1%, could be the difference of you making the sale or not making the sale.
Yeah.
So most times people are about 80% there. It's that little last bit of tweaking and massaging and reorganizing what they're doing. Same
Right.
amount of time. I believe in not working harder, but working smarter.
Right.
I know Bryce has heard me say that a million times. He's like, yeah, Con, we know, right? But it's about working harder, not smarter. So do what you're doing, the amount of effort, let's refine it, and then you could get better results quicker.
Wonderful. Good. All right. Well, let's start. So step one.
Step one, being prepared. You cannot show up. You cannot wing it. You have to be prepared. And the importance of showing prepared is the customer feels it right out of the gate. So here's the thing. I talk about eliminating the 5 layers of buyer's resistance. The first 5 that I'm going to go through with you today with the 7, if we are not in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we try to jump around or skip a step, you've lost the sale, you've lost the customer, and you don't even realize it's happening. That's that's part of that subconscious current that's happening.
Right.
So a lot of people think, oh, I know what I'm doing. I could show up and I'm going to wing it.
Right.
It's nonsense. Now, Dale, I've been teaching this 20 years. I still have notes in front of me, so I don't forget anything. That's being prepared. I want to maximize our conversation. I want to maximize the information people are hearing from me. I want to add value. That's always my goal. You got to be prepared to show up and for people to think, she just gave us so much information in an hour. My brain hurts. I've done my job, right? So that's
so we sit with that for a second, because that's so important. And it's funny, Sue and Maura know I like to, and Sue Slavin and Maura Panuski are, the folks that really run the Rothman Institute. And so they know I like to wing it, but I wing it because I'm prepared. I wing it. I'm really prepared for stuff. Like we do these interviews, but I kind of have a real good sense of it. I don't write it down, and some people have to write it down, but you really have to be prepared. And even if you don't seem like you're prepared, you really have to be. And that's such a key to success. And yeah.
I was going to say, and part of the preparation too is it's exactly what you just said. You do have to be present, and you do have to go with the flow, because we can't control everything.
Right.
Here's the thing. When I say to be prepared, yes, you have to show prepared. You don't necessarily have to have notes, but you do need to be mindful that so example, right? So much about your topic. I have 40 years of knowledge in this brain. And what ends up happening when we start to sell with our client or our prospect, right? We have so much going on that what we do is we talk, and I want to share. I'm teaching right now, right? I'm sharing right now. That's okay. But if there was a client in front of me, I have to be listening much more extensively than speaking. So being prepared is literally not only being prepared with your content, but meeting the client where they are. So if I'm talking to a new business owner, my conversation is going to be drastically different than someone who's been in business 5 or 10 years that is just trying to work the same amount of hours and make more money, right? It's going to be a very different conversation. You have to be prepared for that, right? And know what you're showing up for, and be prepared to listen and really listen to what the client situation is. So that's important too.
Yep. Absolutely. So what's 2? What's number 2?
So 2 is how we communicate, and that's the building rapport. And you've heard it, 30-second commercial, your elevator speech. And I believe you wouldn't say to a client, so Dale, I'm meeting you for the first time. Let me tell you all about Connie Whitman. That would be obnoxious and not really a cool thing to do. But what I find is most of the people I work with, they have this very vague value statement. So people hear and they go, oh, okay, not really sure what you do. So I don't even want to say, hey, I'd like to work with you, or I think I need your help, or I think I might have somebody I can refer to you. It's distorted. So we really need to get your 30-second commercial concise. And for Zoom, what I found is I help my clients get their value statement down to 17 words. So you put it into the chat, but it's enough for the hook for people to say, I get exactly what you do. I think I want more information. The other thing goes, all of my steps are linked as well. So let me go back now. Prepared. What does that mean? When you show up for a Zoom networking and they say, put your information in the chat, and everybody puts their links, and you put your 17 word and maybe your email address, if you'd like to connect further, people are going to pause and say, wait, what did she write? And they're going to actually read yours versus LinkedIn, like, yeah. They have all their connections with them. It's all about them, where now you're putting information out. If I can help you, this is what I do. Are you a good match for that? Right. People are going to pay attention. So being prepared, realizing you have instantaneous connection when you're building rapport, it happens pretty quickly. And I do have a tool, Dale, that I'll share with Susan for the email at the end. I have a free communication style assessment, and we'll talk about that. Well, we can talk about that now. There's 5 behavioral patterns, if you will, that humans come from. So that means 20% of the time we are talking to people just like us. Here's the flip side, and this is the blind spot, right? 80% of the time, or 8 out of 10 clients we're talking to don't communicate like us. So we need to be able to shift and modify in that 30 seconds. So they get us, they hear us, they see what we're about. And that's happening at the subconscious level, remember. But I do have a tool to help you define and discern what's my style. I don't want you to label yourself, but what is my style combination? What are my superpowers? How you naturally show up and how people naturally see you. But then we have blind spots, which is the way we don't communicate. But that means I'm communicating with people who don't communicate with me. I need to be able to modify and shift really, really quickly to make sure that I'm addressing them the way they need to be addressed. And people do tell you how to sell to them.
Right. But that takes practice, right? In order to jump from this 20% to that 20%, you've really got to kind of develop that skill, right?
That's that 20% that we need to refine, right? So yeah.
Interesting. All right. So that's 2. What's next?
3. The third one is your questions. And again, Bryce is going to smile when I say this. It's when you ask good open-ended questions that matter, not that you're just asking questions, right? There's a prepared questions. Again, notice back to prepared. You have these really important questions that give you a lot of information about the client. It's like having a magic wand. So as you, and step 3 and 4 are tethered together, Dale. So if I can have these really great questions prepared, and I have an agenda, I've used it for 20 years. I have 8 questions when I go into a new client. Rinse, repeat. It works. It's what I need to get the information. Now, here's the second piece of it. The 4th step is our active listening. So when I'm in a meeting, right, I'm always taking notes, by the way. I have my agenda and I take notes on the agenda. When the client says something and I think to myself, something going on there, I got to dig in a little more, right? Based on my one question, I have what I call follow-up questions. That's really where the active listening is happening, that I've heard the cue, the clue, the pain point, the issue, whatever you want to call it, that I've heard them. Now, here's the other thing. I don't ever interrupt them. I let them talk. I put a star on my note saying, go back and ask Dale a follow-up question. And just because I've been doing this so long, I know what follow-up questions to ask, but I heard that issue that maybe I didn't think or assume at the beginning, but that question, if you listen really intently, you're going to hear things. And this is where I see a lot of people leave money on the table. We go in with, oh, you need my signature program. And really, they need the signature program, but they need some live coaching as well with it, right? So we're leaving money on the table because we're not actively listening and asking those follow-up questions to dig into the subconscious conversation.
Right. How do you develop that skill? How do you, not everybody is good at that?
See, it's that 1%, that 99, we're 99% there. So this is through the education, through learning, through practice, coaching. When I come in and I coach people, it's try it this way, try it that way. How did it go? The other thing I do that's real important is I record, or I have my clients record a client meeting, an actual client meeting. I go through and I listen to it, and then I pinpoint and say, Dale, you see what you did here? This was phenomenal. Keep doing that. Look at the body language. Look at how the client responded to that, right? Very telling and showing are 2 very different things. The other thing I do is I'll say, Dale, here, you see where you got a little tongue tied. Let's talk about that. What happened? Let's refine. Let's play it right now. Let's play it. Try it again. So this is a safe place. So when you get in front of the client, you're not even thinking about it. You know how to ask those follow-up questions. It's practice. It's like anything else. It's developing the skill.
Oh, but this is, I mean, I love this because it really mirrors sports training. I'm a tennis, I teach tennis. And so, the
Of
same
course you
kind of
do.
practice, work on that weakness and do that. And as basic as it sounds, very few people do it. They don't think of their business as being, the best athletes in the world have a coach. They practice. Why can't the best business people do the same thing?
It's true. And here's the thing. I think because they don't, it's a blind spot. If I don't know what I don't know, I don't even know what to ask, right? So that's why these types of presentations, people come back to me and say, "Oh, I think I have a problem," because they understand, we know ourselves. No one has shined a light to say, "Have you looked at that?" And they go, "I never looked at that. I didn't know that was a subconscious conversation." So all of a sudden you're shining a light and they think, "Oh, I think that's maybe my 1%. I don't know what to do." And that's where people fall. So what happens when I don't know what to do? People either bury it. I'm not good enough. The self-talk, the mindset. I can't address that. I'm never going to be able to do that. Connie's great. I could never duplicate that, whatever. That's negative self-talk. Or the flip side is, you know what? I know I have this problem. How fast can we fix it? So
Right.
sometimes I have to work with people, keep them in my pipeline, and they follow me through my newsletters and my podcasts. And so I'm always sharing information. And then they'll reach the point where, I feel like you're talking to me all the time. Can you help me with X, Y, and Z? And then it allows them time to do a little self-assessment. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's everybody has to be in their time and place when they reach out and ask for help. But if you don't even know what to ask help for, that's where I see a lot of the problems. So breaking these down into these 7 steps, people have these aha moments saying, "Oh, yeah, that's where I need help with," right? I'm not really good at that listening, or I'm not really good at asking questions, or whatever it is.
Do you help people, obviously they're working with you, but then they go home and they want to practice this, to help them work with their spouse or their family, or really practice this? What are some of the tricks that people even here can go home and practice with somebody that they trust?
This is such a great question, because it's not just in the classroom. Real learning happens in the real world. Oh, by the way, right? So it's when we take that skill and we apply it, and we have epic fails. You need a couple of epic fails, right? I call it failing forward, because the more you practice, you're going to get it. It's like anything else. So number 1, be patient with yourself. Number 2, so my CSA is a free resource, right? Which we'll share with everybody. Here's how I tell people to start to practice with that skill. Take the CSA, read your report, understand where you come from, right? And then on my website, I think I have the companion book. I think it's 99 cents, right? So if you want that, 99 cents. Anyway, you go and you understand your communication style. And then what I say is, when you know enough, where you start to say, "Oh, they're a precise assessor. Oh, they're a stimulating motivator," whatever the 5 categories are. Then start to guess. I think Dale is, right? And then I would say to Dale, "Can you do me a favor? Can you take this little short quiz? It's a free resource, right? Now you share your report with me." And I go, "Oh, I got it right," or, "Oh, I didn't get it right. Why didn't I get it right?" So you could start to actually use people, your family and friends, right? And then have them take the CSA, but try it before you have them take the CSA and give you the answer. Try to figure out if you can discern what they are. So that's another little trick. And the third one is, if you're presenting and you're nervous about presenting, this is what I hear from introverts. Like, "I'm just shy and I'm unsure of myself." I get that. Look in the mirror and practice. Your family's going to think you're crazy, and that's okay. Go in the bathroom, shut the door, but practice. Watch your body language, right? Or try to make eye contact with yourself. All of those little pieces affect the subconscious conversation. Have I made my point about the subconscious conversation, right?
Well, and we have a tool now too, is Zoom. Zoom is you can record. Here you are on here. We can record this, and then you can go back and look and say, "Wow, I didn't know I did that, and I didn't know I did this," and so on. This is great. And I know people are taking notes. So what's next? Where are we on the list?
So after 4 is the listening, right? And that's tethered to 3. Number 5 is that I clearly understand what the package of products, combination of products, whatever it is, that's going to help my client move the needle. So here's where, if you've done if you're prepared, and you've communicated, you've modified your communication style, you've asked the right questions, you've taken great notes, you've listened carefully, you have what I call the full picture of that client, right? Now you can make a recommendation instead of, and this is where I see a lot of people falter. They ask just enough questions so that they can make that one sale. That one need is there. And the problem with that is if you dig a little bit deeper, sometimes 3 products or packaging 3 services for that client is really better than that one thing that you initially thought they would need. So this is where you discern, based on everything I understand about this client, here's how I can help them right here, right now, with whatever their situation is. And hopefully I can create some remedy for that. Or number 2, that I can, what was I going to say? Help them remedy the situation. Oh, or the package of products just makes more sense that I can help them move the needle quicker, faster, easier, whatever it is. But if I don't have that full picture, what I find is when they present, it's not even just about my presentation skills. They're leaving money on the table because people present what this much when they should be asking for this much. And then this is what I hear. Well, I don't want to be pushy. You're not pushy if you're not serving your client fully. Shame on you. It's your responsibility to help that client, is where I come from, right? So you didn't fully educate them as to all the options of how you can help them because of your own fear and your own self-talk. That's not fair to the client. So that should become super, super clear of what the package should look like or what your offer should look like. Present it.
You need to really know your products. You need to know your products. I mean, you really need to know not just the product per se, but the combination, what combination of.
Ooh, did I disconnect? Susan, is that Dale or did I disconnect?
I think that was Dale.
Okay, we're frozen.
Go ahead on your
okay.
On your steps.
Yes. Do you want me to continue? Okay, that's fine. I'm sure he'll boot back in. So the presentation piece, with Dale, I think what Dale was asking is we have to know our product. So here's a visual. I'm a visual learner. So for everybody in the room, picture yourself walking into your pantry or looking at your food shelf at home. You have to have certain ingredients, right, to create a meal for people, friends coming over. So think about walking into the pantry. What are all the things that you have, all the products and services that you have on the shelf, right? I have about 20 different options that I offer, plus a membership site, right? Plus the CSA. I have all these tools and stuff as well. So when I meet with a client, I go into my pantry and I think, ooh, they need this, but they actually need a combination of this and this ingredient as well. Maybe not the full program, but a third of that program I could pull out. And I don't believe in cookie cutter. So every time I meet with a client, it's whatever they're trying to create. What are their values? What are their culture? And then we go in and I can pull out from my pantry, if you will, what are the ingredients specific for that client? So that's where you really need to know not only who the client is, but also who is what is the solution for them, or the combination of solutions. So you really do need to know your stuff, but you need to know how to package it as well. Any questions with that, Susan?
I am not seeing any questions in the chat, but everyone feel free to pop questions in the chat. If you have things that are really specific to your own business, Connie would be happy to answer anything.
Absolutely. I'll go to the 6th step.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so the 6th step is where we actually ask for the business. You've done all this work, ask for the business. Even if you get the no, it's okay to get no's, right? But ask for the business. If you perfect my 7th step process, when you get to step 6 and you ask for the business, you should not get objections. So what is that, Connie? You're crazy. What does that mean, right? So 3 things should happen when you ask for the business. 1, the client is like, where have you been my whole life? How can we get this started yesterday? You're exactly what I've needed. Your conversation, your solution, what a perfect fit. That's such a beautiful thing when that happens, right? So client says, ooh, let's get it started. Second thing that happens is you say to the client, you're not ready for me. And I alluded to this at the onset with Dale, when some clients, they follow me before they choose to work with me. And that's absolutely okay. But sometimes I say to a client, you have all these things going on. You're just not ready for me right now. Let's wait and do XYZ before you and I actually start working together. So what I do is I give them things that they can work on without my help, but to start to think about, to start to observe. And then by the time they start working with me, we're the rubber's hitting the road pretty darn quickly. But I say to them, you're not ready for me. Here's what you need to do first. And the third one is, and it's not objections, I say to the client, I'm not the right fit for you. I'm not the one who can help you with, and then I'll reiterate what I understood their situation is. And then I'll refer them to Dale or Susan or John or whoever it is that I feel really can help them. So notice three things. They're eager to work with you. Where have you been my whole life? You're not ready to work with me because you have all these other things in the hopper. You can't put your attention into this. Don't waste your time or money. Let's schedule that for later. And the third one is, I'm not the right person for you. Let me share you. And I have a huge network. So I always have somebody. I tease Dale, this is a Jersey thing too, right? I say to people, I got a guy. So I have, my network's huge. I always have somebody that I could refer and that I vetted and I trust highly, that I know is fairly priced and can really help you with your situation.
Well, great. Yeah, sorry, I have someone working here. They pulled out the wrong cord so that my internet went off. So did you get this question, prospecting? Do you
I
feel
did not.
I need to connect on LinkedIn to let them know prior to a phone call?
Sorry, again, can you repeat it? You checked out.
Yeah, can you say in the question, Mitch asks, prospecting, do you feel I need to connect on LinkedIn to let them know I will be prior to a phone call?
I think it depends on the relationship. So this would be a situational thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, and Dale, when you and I connected, we were introduced, right, by someone else. And then after the introduction, then I went on LinkedIn and said, hey, we got the email. And so you can reference it back versus just getting these random emails. So sometimes I wait on LinkedIn. It depends on where the relationship started. I might not jump into LinkedIn until after I have a conversation and say, hey, whether we're working together or not, hey, let's stay connected on LinkedIn. This is a good way for us to follow each other and see what we're each up to. But it really is situational. You have to be careful. You don't want to be a stalker.
And now what about cold calling? What are your tips for cold calling?
Don't do it. I don't believe in, I have never, ever, well, I'm lying. That's not true. When I started selling insurance, I made cold calls. I had to. I didn't know anybody. I was a kid. I had no network. I had nothing, right? So I made cold calls. I called from back then a phone book, believe it or not. Well, fast forward now, there's no need for us to be making cold calls. You should be using people, and not using, that's the wrong word, but tapping into people that know you really well, that are in your playground or know your ideal client, and they can hand off introductory emails or get invited to speak at events, whatever it is. And the other thing, and this is why I was successful in sales early on, I was in my 20s. Again, I had no network. Right. All of my clients, I proved myself to them. So that like no trust factor, they trusted me because I never steered them wrong, because I educated them about money and finance and making those good decisions, that I lived off of referrals. So 5 years, I was in I was 28, I guess, at the time. Within 5 years, Dale, I was living off of referrals. I did not have to make any more cold calls. So I personally, I'm sharing my experience. If you're making cold calls and they're working, I'm not going to say stop doing it, but we really want to look for those warm introductions, those referrals from happy clients versus making cold calls. Again, work smarter, not harder. That to me is a lot of effort.
Yeah, it's a lot of painful.
And no results.
But Connie, people are, I know there are people watching and saying, yeah, this is great, but look at Connie's personality. She's dynamic. She's energetic. She makes you feel warm. I don't have that. I'm an introvert. Well, what do you say to the introverts? How do the introverts,
It's funny, most of my business clients are introverts. And this was fascinating too, right? I think, oh, people are going to resonate with me with my personality. And the introverts are the ones who resonate with me because here's the thing. And this is one of the things I do teach, Dale. I always ask, who do you think is the secret sauce? What do you think is the secret sauce in this whole sales process? And 99% of the time people say, well, your process, you know what to say and you know how to present. And that's not correct. You are the secret sauce. So I could teach you the infrastructure, right? Of what the process should be. And it's logical and you can't jump around or you lose the sale, right? All these things I'm teaching right now. At the end of the day, you're the secret sauce. So how do you take that, make it your own? But here's the difference, right? You could see I'm passionate about this. I love teaching. I'm blessed that I get to do what I love every day. I love to speak. Well, passionate people can be quieter and not like me, like woohoo, right? So you could be passionate and people will feel that even if you're an introvert. You just have to know how to craft your message and use your secret sauce, bring your heart forward. And that's easy to do because if I give you the tools to do that, it's easy for you to execute from that introvert perspective. You don't have to be an extrovert like me to be good in sales. I don't believe that.
But what I'm hearing is that it makes sense to be passionate about what you're offering. That you don't have to be loudly passionate about it, but you really have to be. It has to come across that you love what you're doing,
and you
right?
know what you're doing. You have to be an expert, otherwise, why are people going to listen to you, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so. So now, all right. So we've gone through your process.
Wait, there's one more step. Can I share the last step? Step 7.
Okay. I don't know if you got it when I was away. Okay.
Nope.
Good.
Step 7 is
Okay,
follow up. And this is where I see a lot of people shoot themselves in the foot. It's something like the statistics. 96% of business owners and salespeople follow up to about 3 or 4 times and then stop because they feel they're being pushy or, well, they're not interested. Humans have a 6-second attention span. Goldfish, by the way, have a 7-second attention span. So that puts it in perspective, right? We have a 6-second attention span. Right now, when I first started in sales 40 years ago, the client needed to hear from us 5 to 8 times. Now they need to hear from us about 13 to 18 times. Wow. That does not include one-on-ones, face-to-face. It could be an email. It could be a LinkedIn post. It could be seeing each other on a meeting venue like this, but it's now up to 13 to 18 times. So if 96% of business owners and salespeople stop at 5, why? We don't remember. We have too much stimuli hitting us. You need to continue that follow-up process. And about 2% of successful businesses and salespeople follow up past the 10th time. So just to put it in perspective for you.
Oh, wow. Really? Well, that's really valuable information. And so when does it get too much? When are you too obnoxious? When does that 11th time,
Well, then, and that's not following up every other day because that's obnoxious. But if you spread that out over a period of time, and then sometimes what I do where I think, I really don't think they're interested or it's not a good fit. I'll send my last email will say something like, look, I never want to be a pest. And this is exactly what I write. I never want to be a pest. This will be my last email. Please, if you need me, here's my phone number, email, whatever it is that I'm addressing. Please stay in touch. I just don't want to be a pest. And you know what happens? About 50% of the time, no, please keep emailing me. You're not a pest. The timing's just been off. And then all of a sudden, they're willing to meet with you. So, but again, I take it from I'm being respectful of them and that I'm removing myself from the equation, but they certainly could stay in contact with me.
And I think it's important for us to remember that, people have never been busier than we are now.
Yes.
Now, some of it is fake, some of it's fake busy because we're on our cell phones on Instagram or something, but a lot of it is we're contacting more people. We don't, and so we're busy. And I know sometimes I want people to do that because I'll forget. So somebody that I really wanted to talk to, and I just got busy and then I didn't hear from them until, a month later and said, oh, good. I wanted to talk. Thanks for reminding me. I wanted to do that. So in this day and age, it's, the trouble is we get all these stupid scam calls,
That's the problem.
That makes people hate stuff. And so I've gotten a few as we're talking today. So, so good. Well, this is comprehensive. I know people are taking a lot of notes. So the clients, the range of clients we talked a little bit about. So the small business person, what are some of the things you've really worked with them on?
The small business owner. Okay. So a lot of mindset, a lot of it is strategic. They just, I'm good at my business. I'm passionate about my business, but now I have to articulate it. And what I find is business owners, they're so excited because they've created in their trunk or in their basement or whatever it is, right? They've created this baby. And now I go in and you're so excited that you start, excuse the expression, but you're vomiting on the client. It's like,
Right.
stop. So as soon as we put it in perspective, as soon as we strategize, as soon as we start working and refining, usually it's refining skills is what I find.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we make money. And I could a quick case study. One of my clients came to me and said, I hate sales. I suck at sales, blah, 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 all this negative derogatory. I said, okay. I was like, all right. Gets into my program. 3 weeks in, she comes in and it's a group, a program. And she comes in and I could see she was all antsy. And I go, what's going on? She goes, I can't wait. Can I go first? Like, yes. She goes, she said, I created a package on the spot. We were 3 weeks in, so we didn't even get through all of my 7 steps.
Hmm.
I created a package. I made $2,000 in one day. And by the end of the 4th week, so 1 month in, she paid for the program. She paid me. She had her bathroom was getting renovated, and she took a vacation that August.
Wow.
All paid cash. And now she hired me one-on-one now. She's like, you're never getting rid of me. I just give up. But we're 2 months in, and we've just, again, always strategically thinking she's on pace to make probably more than double what she made last year.
Wow, that's fantastic. So we're getting near the end. So how do people get in contact with you? What's your website? And
so I just rebranded to Changing the Sales Game from Whitman and Associates, because Whitman and Associates was old, 20 years old. So changingthesalesgame.com is a great place to start. Also, Susan, and I'm happy to do this for anybody on the call, the free communication style assessment, we'll put that in the newsletter or in your email. The other thing is I'm happy to do a sales audit, even if you just want to know which camp am I in or what are some of my subconscious blocks. I have specific questions that I ask. We jump on a 30-minute one-on-one free. I offer this for free to help people really discern where's the biggest bang for the buck. Where should they start? And look, you know me, Dale, I'm not pushy. I'm not going to pitch you. If at the end you go, oh, I really need you, great. And if you go, oh, thank you for the information, I did my job. I'm happy with that as well. So they're probably the 2 best ways. But my website is changingthesalesgame.com. And my podcast, Dale, you've been on my podcast. Susan, I guess we could put that as well. Free resource, tremendous guests like Dale have been on, and I share a lot of really good, my guests and I share a lot of good content there as well. Leadership, sales, coaching, business strategies, all those things. Yeah.
No, it really is wonderful, and a wonderful resource. And so I hope everybody has that contact information. And so, as we wind down, as you look at other sales folks in the sales business, people who are professional salespeople, are you still learning? Are you still learning from people who are really good? Because the game changes a little bit. The world changes in communication.
Absolutely. The conscious and subconscious conversation, I kind of knew it, never thought about it. I hired someone, a coach, to help me with my messaging on the marketing side, because I'm not a marketing person. And as I was talking, he would say things and I'd be like, oh, that's so smart. I've been doing that for 20 years and didn't know it. So it's, again, I have 3 coaches right now. I have a writing coach, I have a business coach, and I have a person who's helping me build the infrastructure of my business so that I can leave either a legacy for my kids or sell it when I retire, in 10 or 15 years. So I have 3 coaches right now. And that's another tip. If you're a coach and you're on this call and you don't have a coach, be careful. I tell my clients, if someone thinks they know it all, that's really dangerous, right? I've been doing this 40 years. I'm 60 years old. This isn't my first rodeo, and I have 3 coaches right now. So we all have blind spots. Just constantly learn and reach out for help. That's my biggest recommendation.
That's it. And the name of your podcast?
Changing the Sales Game.
Changing the Sales Game, right? But that's a powerful message. The best athletes in the world have their own personal coaches. Why can't people do that? So the fact that as successful as you are, you have 3 coaches is real testimony to your willingness to learn and adjust the game. And every one of them, everybody on this call should really think about that and have some kind of coach that supports them. So Connie, again, time goes by so quickly. Just want to thank you so much. This is
Thank you.
chat, a lot of information. A lot of people found this very, very beneficial as anticipated. I want to thank everybody for watching and giving up your lunch hour, and hopefully you had a good meal while you watched us. So thanks so much. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next time on our Zoom at noon. But Connie will be in touch. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone.